Hello, and welcome to Unworthy, where we're going to share testimonies of God's love and redeeming grace. We believe that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, but we are being justified freely by his grace through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus, which is in Romans 3:23 and 24. And friends, today, if you do not know this redemption and this love that is found through Jesus and in God, then we would love to talk to you. And so we have a website, www.I.Am.Unworthy.com, and there you can contact us, and we would love to talk to you and pray with you today, any day, whenever you're ready to share the good news of Jesus. And so we believe that none of us are actually worthy, and that is okay. And we don't have to work to be worthy. We don't have to strive to be worthy because He is worthy. And so it takes a lot of pressure off. And so today we are talking to our good friend Bonnie, and we believe that you are going to be blessed by her story of God's redemption and his love, and also her story of her special needs child, Kyle, who is a true blessing to all. And we hope that you will see the world in maybe a different way in your community, maybe in schools, if you have other children in schools, or if you interact with children who are special needs. Maybe this will give you a different view of those children and a compassion and a heart for them and their families, and just what a blessing that they truly are. And so again, we would love to hear from you. And I think at the end of the day, we're just trying to share people's stories of how God has worked in their lives, and how it's a journey and it's a path, and sometimes it's a path that's unexpected, but He is able to take all things in our lives and work them to His good. And so, without further ado, here is Bonnie's story. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you for being here today.
I'm so glad I'm here with you today.
I love you so much.
I love you.
All right. So when God gave me this word, unworthy, you were, I think, probably the first person I talked to about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you about it, and I asked you to pray about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually wasn't thinking this was what we would be doing with it.
Isn't it crazy how life happens?
Yeah.
But God is guiding you in this direction, I feel like.
I just want to do what He wants me to do,
Mm-hmm.
even when it's not very comfortable to
Neither
do.
one of us.
And so this is quite uncomfortable.
That's not the truth.
And so I'm very blessed that you will do this with me, because
I'm just glad the little voice in the back of my head said, do it.
Yeah, volunteered to do it. So I just want to start by saying how blessed I feel that when I said, to pray about it, and that He would show me what to do with this word, that you brought this to me, and then that you were like, well, I'll do this with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is not usually what we even wear when we're together for a weekend.
We're very dressed up today.
We're very dressed up
We're
today.
wearing makeup.
Usually we don't even get out of our pajamas.
No.
When we are together on a weekend.
Toothbrushes are overrated.
It is true. It is true. Some days we don't even, get dressed. So, so Bonnie is my very, very good friend.
Mm-hmm.
We've known each other for, I don't know, like a decade maybe.
Let's see, the boys were little. I mean, Kyle was what, 3?
Yeah, 3. So maybe like 12 years now. And so our husbands have been friends for a very, very long time.
Together, yeah.
But we met later in life when our boys were younger still.
Mm-hmm.
But our boys are teenagers now.
Time flies.
But we live far apart.
Mm-hmm.
We live a state apart, and so we don't often get to see each other.
But we make an effort, like 3
we make
years,
the time.
4 times a year, I think.
Yes.
That's what we end up seeing each other.
And so over the last year, though, I will say that I feel like our friendship has deepened.
Absolutely.
With this faith journey.
Yes.
Right?
I have been moved hugely in the last year.
Yeah.
Hugely, is that a word?
I mean,
Whatever.
I'm not
My
a dictionary.
faith has come to fruit in the last year.
I will say I definitely have seen the fruits of the Spirit in you, and have been inspired by that in you.
I didn't realize I inspired you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
Absolutely. And so we've been usually talking every week, and kind of going through what I learned at church, what you learned at church, and sharing, and sharing that message, which I find amazing, honestly. And I get a lot from, I like to listen to other pastors, honestly, all the time. But I love, honestly, to hear your interpretation of that too. And I think I can say this as a newer believer, right? Like, your interpretation of it takes me back to, fresh eyes, right? Like, hearing something for the first time and being like, oh, what does that mean? Like, oh, I never thought of it that way. And so I have really have loved our time together on our weekly time.
I've gotten a lot of clarity from you because you're so knowledgeable.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Look, you know more. You don't give yourself enough credit. Wow. But I always walk away Monday refreshed and clear. Yeah. And just, I'm learning. This is all new to me. I didn't grow up in a very Christian home, so your guidance has helped me learn the importance of all this.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think it's gives me a lot too. So I think we get a lot we've always gotten a lot out of our friendship.
But we've just added an extra layer.
It's added an extra layer.
It's like the whipped cream and cherry on top.
Right. If you could just tell me, for you personally, when you hear the word unworthy, because that's kind of like what we're standing upon, right?
Absolutely.
What does that personally mean to you? What feelings does that bring? Because I think when we hear that word, I
think I've felt that my entire life. To be honest, it was, I've never been real confident in myself or have been able to verbalize things that I've wanted or needed throughout my life up until recently. Well, 15 years ago, 20 years ago when I met my husband. So I've never really had that feeling of being worthy for anything. And then the day that I got saved, it was like a flood of, I was like, oh my gosh, like I am supposed to be that person, this person, I am supposed to do these things. The people that have been put in my life have been what God, and if I had had this happen sooner, I wouldn't have appreciated it because I was in a really dark place when I finally found the Lord. So. Yeah. Look, I'm already getting emotional.
I know.
I'm a train wreck. Just patience. it'll come all out in the end in the wash. But yeah, so it's been a rough few years. A lot of things have changed. Everything. But a year ago, I actually got saved February 11th of last year. One of the little girls at church is like, "You're old." I'm like, well, better late than never.
There's people much, much older, right?
A lady was baptized a couple of months ago that was like 85, and I'm like, hey, when it comes, it comes. So
never too late.
But I didn't understand the importance. I've always believed in God. I've always, I was raised where as long as you were doing good deeds and there were certain things you didn't do, then you were going to heaven. And, there was a lot of things. I'm not proud of what I've done, some of the things, but I have never, they've led me to this point in my life. Like, this has been my path in life. There's things like moving at a young age and meeting new people and then ending up in North Carolina. And I had been married before, but if I hadn't been married, I would have never met my husband, which sounds kind of, but the last name I had before got me the job. So it was, it was God's plan.
It's a path, right?
It is.
Not
it's
always
God's plan. It's
a
just
path.
the devil wants to play his part in everything. So
yeah. But the beauty of it is, I think God always can take anything and use it to his will and use it to his purpose and his good and his goodness. And so that is the beauty. And I think you have so many pieces of that in your story. And and there is so much good that can come out of so many hard things, right?
Oh,
there is beauty that can come out of any brokenness in us. There is beauty in that brokenness. Absolutely. Right? Or what we would feel as brokenness. And so I would say the same thing about that, the unworthiness. I think that is some of what we've kind of based this on. It's this idea of like, there is a reality of our human condition, right? That we are unworthy to redeem ourselves. That is just true.
It is so true.
And so that is why God, in his love for us, gave us his son in Jesus. And then Jesus, in his love for us, chose to sacrifice himself. And there's nothing we actually have to do.
No.
Except accept it. And that's hard to grasp.
It is. It's huge.
It's huge and it's big, and I think it's so precious that it seems like, who would do that, right? Like, our mindset, I think we just can't imagine being that selfless and being that,
And why me? Like,
right.
I don't sit around and dwell every day on things that have happened in the past, but it's hard to believe that anybody would be like, you know what, it's okay. Things happen, I still love you no matter what.
Yeah. But his love for us is that big, right? Like, that immediately our sins are completely forgiven. And I think even, something, I think early on when we were talking, I feel like something you said to me resonated, which was, I had said,
we're just kidding.
I had said, something to that effect, right? Of we're not worthy, and we're not, I fail every day, and I know how I don't deserve this grace and this mercy. And you were like, well, I don't see you that way at all. I see you as this person who...
She's that friend that you look up to, because you have it all together. You're so faithful. You're knowledgeable. It's not like you're just riding the coattails of somebody or something. You have devoted your life to a situation or the Bible.
Right.
You live daily for the Bible. It's not like you don't fly by the seat of your pants.
Right. But I see all the ways that I fail, right? I know in my heart, right? The times where I don't show up like I should. I see the times where I respond in anger with my kids when I shouldn't, right? Or I fail my husband, and I don't show up like I should. And all the times where I know I'm not showing the fruits of the Spirit, the long suffering, all the times where I know I'm not acting like I should, and that I'm failing him daily, right? Because I know I'm convicted, because I know how I should be showing up, and I know I don't show up like that. And so it was a different perspective, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
For you to hear how I know
when you
in my heart how I am.
You're like, I have so many shortfalls, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, but I know I am unworthy.
In
my heart.
People think I have it together, and if you crawled in my head, I'm a train wreck.
Right. And so this kind of is probably where this somewhat stemmed from, is this idea that from the outside looking in, sometimes people think Christians have it all together. We do not.
No.
We're actually I will speak for myself. I am well aware I have it not all together, and how much I don't have it together. And that is why it highlights more why I need Jesus. That he's the only thing that keeps me together. And anything good in me is the Holy Spirit working in me. It's only that.
Right. I know I've had to find grace in all this, because I've learned you have to give yourself grace, because God's not gonna, he's giving you grace because he's sacrificed his whole being for you, as earthly being. But we have to remember, he's where we want to be someday in the end. So this is just a passage to get to where we are really supposed to be.
Yeah. And you have to sort of become okay with your failures and your faults, and understanding that perfection is somewhat unachievable.
It's impossible.
It is impossible. And so when you see Instagram and you see all these things, and now social media, I think, has made it a little bit more unachievable, right? Like there's so much perfectionism out there, and I think that's hurting us as a whole.
I call it Facebook happy. Like there is no way possible everything that you see on Facebook is either true or has been twisted. I look back on posts that I did when Kyle was first born, and I made it to be like everything was hunky-dory, and it was not hard. It was not. I was beat down, but on Facebook I look like my life, like Kyle was doing great, and he was doing great, but he was not up to the standards of the world, and I was not, as a human, not willing to put that out there to people.
Right, and that's fair, right? You don't want to share your hardest things on Facebook. Some people do share their hardest things.
But then the world looks at them as whining all the time.
Yeah, but it's like Facebook, it's like a highlight reel, right? Like, because your real authentic self is probably shared with like the people closest to you, and that's fine. That is fine, and it's kind of how it should be. But we can't then look to those things as reality and then hold ourselves to those standards, right?
Right.
And I think we kind of do, and that just exacerbates the problem of feeling like everybody else has it together, and why don't I have it together like this person or that person? So why don't we talk a little bit about, I think maybe the bigger thing in your life that you might want to talk to everybody about is your journey with Kyle, and what an amazing person he is.
My gosh, this kid.
But also, and I will say this to you, like, what an amazing mom you are.
Oh my gosh, and just by the grace of God, like.
But it's true, and I think but overall, what I would say is that he, from my perspective, is a miracle, and he's a walking, talking miracle.
Functional to a certain extent miracle. So, I had Kyle at 31 years old. I had him at 26 weeks. 40 weeks as pregnant, a full-term pregnancy, and he was born at 1 pound 14 ounces. Stretch out head to toe, he was 13 inches. He was healthy. He did really good for a couple hours breathing on his own, but 2 weeks after he was born, he got a staph infection that settled on the mitral valve of his heart. And because of the staph infection, he had a pulmonary hemorrhage and a heart attack and died. And they were able to get him back, but the lack of oxygen to his brain, the whole left side of his brain is scar tissue, and the right side is a perfect. And the neurologist had never seen that before. Normally it's sporadic scar tissue. There's parts of his brain that are smaller than they're supposed to be, but they don't know if that's from the prematurity or from the infection. So he got sick October 16th, and we got to bring him home on December 25th of 2009. He wasn't supposed to come home until the end of January because of his due date. But he rallied. Like, the kid's been through war. We brought him home, and it was super cute because I pulled him up out of the car seat and his pants fell off. Because they were too big. They were preemies.
Even the preemie clothes would not fit down.
He was 3 pounds 14 ounces when we brought him home, and he literally looked at me like, well, what do we do now, Mom? Like, it was crazy. But that night that he got so sick, if you don't believe, somebody was inside fighting for him. You know how babies have that blank stare? They don't see or recognize anybody. And that night, there was somebody in him, and I recognized the person, and I don't know if it was, God, Jesus, or if he had sent somebody I knew to let me know that he was going to be okay. But there was somebody in there fighting for his life. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, not that he's going to be okay. So anyways, so we made it through that. And then a year later, he started having a type of seizure. They're called infantile spasms. Unfortunately, we caught him pretty early. So I gave him a shot every morning for 30 days. The type of seizure was basically eating his brain. And luckily, after being told I was a first-time mom and he had reflux and I was overreacting. Finally, sounds terrible, he turned blue. And they finally listened to me, and by the grace of God again, It was experimental, and they cleared it up. The medicine cleared him up. I mean, the vials were this big, and they were $30,000, and we had 6 of them. Thank the Lord for insurance. So, but I remember that night we were in the hospital getting ready to have his EEG put on his brain. No, they had already done the EEG, and she came in and told us that it was bad. And I remember just like, I can't do this anymore. I need you, God. I can't handle this. Like, yeah. I need somebody to take the wheel, so to speak, as crazy as that sounds. And I just remember having this warm, like, I got you feeling, you know, come over me. And I have not felt that again, but probably because, I mean, other than when I got saved, but that was a totally different feeling than this, what had happened that night with the seizure situation. So, but Kyle, I mean, we've worked really, really hard. We've gotten a lot of therapies. He is walking, he is talking, he's quirky and weird, just like me, you know, like everybody's got their own little thing. He presents as autistic, but he's got a half a brain. Just in the last year, he's really come out of his shell and is starting to be more social. Jennifer and Roger are like his second parents. Thank the Lord, they said they'd take him if something ever happened to me and Mike. So, yeah.
He is so funny. Like, he will quip it. Like, he likes to speak in movie quotes.
Yes, he speaks in movie quotes.
But he will pull the right one out at the right, with the right timing to be, like, super funny in the right moment. And it is, like, sense. Completely on point and completely witty and quippy and just, like, has the perfect sense of comedic timing.
And you don't think he picks up on stuff, but he's very aware of what's going on around him. But yeah, he talks in like TV show quotes. He's 15. He's got the mentality of about a 6 to 8 year old. So he watches a lot of Disney. But if you listen, you're like, what is he talking about? And then you listen, think about it, and you're like, oh, that's his answer.
That's what makes sense to this moment in time. It's just how he relates to the world, right? Like, absolutely. He relates to the world, like what he's seen, right? He's relating to the world, which when you think about this story and like, I'm just gonna cry, and like how far he's come,
and you've watched it,
is a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, she has seen the trials and tribulations and not really the hardships, because we share, but when you're living it day to day, you don't understand, or see it, not understand, but see it. So yeah, he's something else.
No, and there's nothing like, I think, you know, children, I just believe that you should always just be so grateful, right, for those moments with them, and what they bring to the table, because every child is a little different, right? Like, my two boys, while they look very similar, are very night and day.
Polar opposites.
I mean, even though everybody thinks, and they're joined at the hip, so they love each other so much, and they love to be together so much, but yet they are very different people.
They complement each other.
They do complement each other in a funny way. But they have, you know, their differences and their quirks too. You know, like every child, right, brings that. And you have to, like, love who they are individually and what they individually bring to the table.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, what we do with children, and, you know, you could go whatever with educate, whatever. But I think we try to make children so cookie cutter in so many ways, right?
Keep them in a box, and there's no getting out of the box. You know?
Right.
I'm fighting. Me and Michael are constantly fighting to get stuff for Kyle that you would think would just be common sense, but it's not. You know, all the way down to he can't write. He writes like a toddler, and the type of brain injury he has is called PVL. And neurologists forever have been like, PVL patients just don't write well. It's just, for some reason, that type of brain injury. He writes like, he can write, he looks like a toddler when he writes.
Yeah, and that's the reality.
And it took us forever to get him a computer that he could type, and he can type. So it's just bizarre how the world works, and the different states work. You know, but I'm a tenacious person.
Yes, and I think a lot of your background and how you grew up, right? And I think that is a place where God can be good in so many ways. Is like sometimes the things we grow up with and the way that we grow up kind of does prepare us to be set apart or like in these situations, advocates, right? In your situation, like tenacious for your child.
Yeah. So, growing up, it looked like we had a lot of money, but we didn't. We had boats and campers and a nice house and nice cars, but, that was the priority, to keep up with the Joneses and make us look like we had a lot of stuff. And, my dad couldn't hold down a job. And my mom was just trying to keep her head above water, keeping my dad happy and keeping a roof over our heads. So when people are like, you need to respect and appreciate your parents more, and they kept a roof over your head and food on the table and clothes on your back, and I'm like, not everybody. It may have looked like that, but I worked and did a lot for myself. Thankfully, I had my grandma to show me what love was and how, people should be treated, because she and me had a special relationship. So my mom does not look at her the same way I look at her. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and that's just, but she taught me how to love. And there was things, so I was neglected in many different ways. So I'm super hyper vigilant over my kids because of the things that were neglected.
Yeah.
When it came to being sick or injuries or anything like that, my parents were always kind of just like, you're fine, suck it up, buttercup, kind of a thing. And it was not okay.
Yeah, and I think that has come in handy so many times with Kyle, because there were times where you had to be diligent with what he was presenting. And if you had not been, he might not be here with us, right? Like, I think there's a truth to that. And so, in some weird way, right, like, God used that.
The crazy thing,
and then gave you this child who needed that.
Right. The crazy thing is like, the day he got sick, I kept telling people there was something wrong with him, and nobody would do anything about it. And it had to get to that point where he was just, there was no coming back, we thought. And then it just perpetually kept happening, but that drive to make sure he was okay was still always there. Does that make sense? Like, I've always been scared to not raise my hand or my voice to the medical field, because I'm always scared that they're gonna treat him poorly because of something I've said or done. And I've had to really let that go, because I'm his voice. I'm the one I'm his mom. And when we finally, because the doctor, when he was having the seizures, was like, your first time mom, you're overreacting. So we found this new doctor, his pediatrician, that's just, she's amazing. And I told her, I'm like, I need to know that you're going to listen to me. I can't do this anymore. I can't have somebody telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm the one living with him. I know how he is. I don't need you telling me that I'm out. I'm already out of my mind with worry. I don't need you to fuel that fire. Because we had already been, and they hiccup and you worry when they've been that sick at some point.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he's got a lot of problems. There's no doubt about that. He's got cerebral palsy. He's had his feet reconstructed. He's got anxiety. He presents as autistic. But I wouldn't trade him for anything in the world. But I didn't realize that I was the one that was supposed to be his mom up until probably 6 months ago. And it was at church, and it was just me and him that went, because Connor and Mike stayed home. And I just had this, like, I knew at that moment, standing there with him, like, that's my baby. And he's a gift to me, but I was the one, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, he was the one, God gave him to me because he knew that was my boy.
Yeah.
But he has my heart. I have an older daughter. She's 21. She's my stepdaughter. She's mine. I've been with her since she was 2, but Connor and Jesse, and I have a 5-year-old. We'll get to him in a minute. I don't worry about Jesse and Connor like I worry about Kyle, but they're capable. Does that make sense? And yes, I want Kyle to live as much of a normal life as possible, but for some reason with him, I'm okay with him being with us the rest of his life. Like, I'm not one of those parents that is like, I can't wait to be an empty nester and be able to go do what I want. It's just never gonna be in our cards, you know? So, sorry.
Yeah. You're fine.
I'm a mess. This is crazy to talk about it. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's so many emotions, right? Like, go with.
It's
let's
love,
go with
it's
that.
anger. I mean, I don't understand sometimes. I remember laying on the bed when I was in labor with Kyle, and my mom was there, and it was like, I feel like I did something so bad to deserve this. And my mom kept saying, well, what did you do? Because that's what we grew up with. And yes,
I was such a hard time.
I know.
You know, I was
and
such
she
a hard
kept
time
saying,
with
what
this.
did you think you did? But that was how we grew up. And I grew up Lutheran, and you know, Lutherans are a lot like Catholics, where it's like Catholic guilt. Like, as long as you lead the straight and narrow, you'll go to heaven. And you know, I get why people think if you do something bad, God's gonna punish you, because I've been reading the Old Testament, and that's what happens a lot in the Old Testament. So I didn't understand. Anyways, the point being is that that's where it comes from, the unworthy. Like, I've never been taught or been told it was okay. I mean, this wasn't my choice. I don't understand why he chose me to do this, but I am grateful. I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. The night he got sick, I was like, Mike said, we'll have another one, because they gave him a 10% chance to live. I'm like, I don't want another one. I want that baby. I want him, you know? So, but anyways, so the support system that I had at the time was
kind of telling you that his illness was because of something that you had done.
I had done, you know. And there are a lot of people in society, unfortunately, that have that attitude. Like, they do still see a person that has a special needs kid, and they're like, what did she do to deserve that? You know, like, what terrible thing did she do? And you know, that's the way the world is sometimes. People are hateful, you know?
And I think I'm such a hard time with this, but
what?
I don't know if I can get through this without like super crying, but like the insulting part of that is like, that is so insulting.
But you hear it all the time, and that's what's so sad about it.
That's like saying that there's not a gift in Kyle.
Oh my God, that kid.
You know what I mean? Like, that is so insulting. Like, that they're not valuable. Like, that there's something wrong with them. In that whole thing, like, that you've done something wrong, and so he's wrong.
And that,
you know what I mean? Like, that's not right. He is a miracle, and if anything, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. But it goes back to my drive to try to make him normal, so to speak, because I knew people. I mean, they proved that in the last couple years. I've had to cut ties with people, because you can do whatever you want to me. You can beat me down, you can tear me up, but you're not going to treat my children poorly, especially for something that they can't help. And I think my biggest thing is, if that person was willing to listen and understand what was wrong with him and why he is the way he is, it would be different. But they don't want to hear it.
Right.
They just know that he has a problem and has told people that he thought he'd grow out of it.
Right.
And didn't make an effort with them, and then doesn't understand why I'm angry, you know?
Right.
But he treated my other child, I mean, that person was treating Jessie like she's my stepdaughter. And then Connor was the normal kid and my blood, so he treated Connor like a prince.
Yeah.
And that's, you know.
And then Kyle, like, he's less.
He's less than. And he's not.
And I think that's my whole struggle with this whole conversation. Or not this conversation, but like this ideology that you've done something wrong because Kyle has challenges.
Right.
He has he has chance. I mean, there are things that are harder for him.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see how he perseveres, he is nothing but inspiring. And to me, his story is one of the human spirit and how much you can't tell someone who they're going to be. Because again, you were told he's never going to walk, he's never going to talk, he's not going to be barely functional. Mm-hmm. And you look at this child and he does all of these things. Mm-hmm. There's a potential he could hold some amount of a job.
Yeah, I mean,
and
he will have a purpose.
He's like, it's the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I think I just have such a hard time with it. It's because it's almost like so insulting
mm-hmm.
to be seen as anything but that.
My drive to getting Kyle to be normal was I knew that if he didn't become a typical kid, that there was people in my family that weren't going to love him. So a lot of the drive I had to work with him and get him to where he is was driven knowing that he wasn't going to be loved by certain people in my family the way he should be loved. Does that make sense?
I mean,
I had no control over it.
A really hard time.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had no control over it, and I look back on that now and I'm like, God, that's ridiculous. But at the time, you know,
it like made sense to you.
It made sense to me because I'm like, well, if I work really hard and it doesn't matter what I have to sacrifice, I will get him where because the doctor said he never walk or talk. So I was like, you know what? I'll prove you wrong. And he's the smartest person I've ever met because he's able to compensate for his disabilities.
Right.
He's able to figure out how to do things in his capacity.
In an innovation way. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and to watch him is just like mind-boggling. I take it for granted every day because there's days I'm human. I'm like, oh my gosh, just do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And I know, like, from a human perspective, right, there is like the extra effort, the hard days,
mm-hmm.
right, the appointments.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is a reality to the effort it takes to be a parent to someone who needs the extra effort, right? But what I will say is God was good in giving him you.
He survived and he was given to us.
Yeah, because you guys have, you know, you who's able to have the time to take him there. Like, that's a blessing. Like, I just feel like you're right in that you were meant to be his, right? Like, you guys were meant to be.
And we're in a situation where we can be.
Right.
You know, my husband has a good job and provides, and I'm able to stay home. And people are always like, now that the kids are in school, where are you going to work? And I'm like, I'm not.
Yeah, you still have appointments. You still have all of these things.
Nobody is going to give me one day a week off to take him to therapy or to a doctor's appointment. And even if I did get into a job now, there's no way I would be able to keep that job because he'll be out of high school and he'll probably never be capable of staying on his own safely. Mm-hmm. And I could leave him at home. He'd be fine. He wouldn't go anywhere or do anything. But if a fire started or something crazy happened, he has no concept of danger in that aspect. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't know what to do if a fire started. He'd probably sit there and watch it, to be quite honest, you know, because he's just Kyle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
but I think, you know, there is an insult in looking at people who are different, who have different needs than others, and believing that they've done something wrong, that God is punishing them with that, when these are the people who have the most resilience, with the most innovation, right? With the most ability to adapt and be, you know, overcomers, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, that is, it hurts my heart. Like, I get so fired up. I don't actually get very angry about a lot. Like, I'm a pretty... But I get really angry.
My feist comes out. I know. But it's funny how you learn to cope with it. So I've had women, you know, and it's nothing against the South, but you get the old Southern women on what's wrong with them. And I've gotten around like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Because I don't have to explain him or clarify. I will say though, in the last few months, when I meet people, because I've been treated poorly in the past, I have a tendency to automatically tell them what's wrong with him. So I look like an oversharer, but I want them to understand him.
Yes. And
it's not that I'm trying to prove or show them. I want them to understand him so that they don't treat him poorly.
Yeah.
And it's not necessary. But I think God is showing me how to handle and deal with.
Well, I think sometimes when you meet strangers, right, they're going to expect a certain response, maybe. Like if you say hello to a child who's his age, at that age, you would expect them maybe to interact in a certain way.
Make eye contact and say hello.
And so, you know, I think potentially you're trying to intervene on his behalf to let them know, like, hey, this is why he's not he's not being rude. He's not being a teenager who's just blowing you off, right? He's got this going on, and that's why he's presenting in this way. And I think you're just like interceding on his behalf to maybe make them not
them uncomfortable.
Or feel like he's, you know, just, you know, maybe not.
He's not being a jerky little
not being a jerky
because
teenager.
A lot of teenagers, you know, aren't taught to be respectful and greet somebody and say hello. What's incredible about this whole situation is since we've started going to the church we go to, he's introduced himself to people. He shakes people's hands. He wants to go and he wants to stay. And that is not in his wheelhouse normally, to want to do these things. And it has brought him into a new era, so to speak, of where he wants to stay at school and do after school activities, because they have like a unified club for special needs and typical developing kids. So he wants to stay and do those things. And that is not just since in the last year since we started going to church, it's a huge step.
Yeah.
I mean, the day that he introduced himself to this boy, me and Mike were like, stop the presses. Everybody listened to what, and do you think anybody else cared? Nope. But who were like, I mean, I was like a ball of just a mush. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, so.
Yeah, and I think those are the things maybe others don't appreciate about maybe having people in their sphere that have kids, right, in your situation.
Yeah.
And so.
But I would work with 6 special needs kids, then I would not want to work with 20 typical developing kids. I don't know if it has to do with Kyle or my patience level, but you know, volunteering for Kyle's class has been amazing. Going out with Connor's class is just exhausting to me. I know that sounds
it's the heart. I think it's just the heart, right? Like, and we're all given our talents, right? Yeah. And so God's going to use your talent for what you're called to do.
And it's crazy because if you knew me as a kid, you would have never thought that I would have the patience nor the capabilities of handling a special needs child. I was scared of them growing up, but we were never taught. Again, it goes back to the way we were raised and worrying about what not my parents, but what that person that didn't accept Kyle for who he was, that was how we were never taught to be empathetic or understand, because they looked down upon these kids, you know. And now I have one, and I'm like, I don't understand why you did not make us understand these situations. Right. And my mom has said, she's like, they scared me.
And I think that's scary. Just like a generational thing, right? And I think that what we're able to do, right, and that's on us then, is love, right? Like, that's all we can do. At the end of the day, like, we're called to do one and one thing only. Love. Like, don't judge people. Try to be empathetic to people and just love them. Like, don't try to judge them. Don't try to, like,
respect them.
Just respect them and love them.
And your boys are a prime example.
I hope so. I mean, I hope so.
Your boys are incredible. I mean, they know Kyle. They don't push themselves on Kyle. They don't treat him like he's weird because he doesn't want to hang out with them. And when he does interact with them or tries to, I mean, I don't know if they're just entertaining him, and they are probably a little confused because of the way he talks in the movie quotes, but they still invite him in to their world. They don't deny him that, and they respected his boundaries. You know, Kyle is a loner. He loves to just hang out and watch his tablet and spin things, and your boys have always respected that, but have always made it known they love him.
Yeah,
you know?
they do love him.
Mm-hmm.
They do love him.
Yeah.
And they don't actually have the appreciation for how much he has. I mean, in some ways, right? They don't know his medical history. They don't know all of this about him.
That's not true, though, because Jacob has been like, what's wrong? Like, and it wasn't in a rude way. He was just finally, like, at that point where he was like, what is wrong with him? And I told him, and he was like, wow. Could he process it? Probably not. It was a couple years ago. I mean, he was like 15 years old, but at least he's trying to understand.
Yeah. But when they were little and first meeting him, like, they didn't know any different. Like, they just...
And honestly, they were like, kind of cute because they just interacted in their own little weird
way.
Just
played. I mean, they just were playing, and then if he wanted to play with them, they'd play, and then if he didn't, they were like, cool. And they just like did their thing, you know.
And they let him have the little Lego men because that's what he liked.
Yeah, if he liked, they would let him have. Like, I feel like he always liked Batman and Spider-Man, you know, like, and there was a Hulk. I feel like he always liked too. But anyway,
so your boys have just been in this situation that we're in because you know it's very easily for your kids to be like, oh my god, the Bryson Burkelly. No, and it's not like that. We've never felt like that before. Where most teenage kids would be like, do we have to hang around the house? You know, do we have to talk to Kyle?
Yeah, and it's actually the opposite. The boys were there was actually something happening Sunday at church after church, and they, because at first you guys were staying on Monday, they were not going to go to the thing with their friends because they wanted to be here with you guys.
Yeah, and they like, I'm like, really? Because they're teenage boys. They need to be
no,
out.
They were like, a good time. They had told them, they were like, we're not going to go because we have people who are going to be here.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. And so it was like they wanted to be here with you all. So, but yeah, I mean, if there's one thing you can, like, hopefully model right for your kids is like that, like being Jesus, right? Like, if there's one thing I want to be, is like Jesus. I hope people see Jesus in me. And the boys, like, have been saved for a while, and you know, that's them, right? Like, if it's any good in you, it should be Jesus coming, you know, the Holy Spirit coming out.
The funny thing is like, with the night Kyle got sick, it wasn't the night, it was after Kyle was born. My mom's like, so are we gonna have him baptized? And me and Mike just looked at her like, why would, I mean, I was baptized as a baby, but that's what Lutherans do. And I'm like, why? And as I've grown, I've realized that's a personal choice.
Right.
I didn't understand the whole concept, to be honest. I just, you know, of being saved, but I was like, that's a choice. Like, he needs to decide that. And so she was really mad at us for not doing that. But up until probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was really worried because we hadn't baptized him, that if something were to happen, where would his soul go? But after Mike talked to our pastor about joining the church and thanking him for being so kind to Kyle, because our pastor's like super in love with Kyle, and his wife is like, can I take him home with me, kind of a thing.
He's very hard not to love.
I know, and he's such a cute kid. Like, he's just adorable. And I'm not saying that because I'm his mom. No, like, you look at him and he's just, he's a good looking kid.
Yeah, even though he's a teenager, he still has like a childlike quality to him.
And he's not that weird gangly, like all teeth, all arms kind of thing. I mean, he's in the awkward stage, don't get me wrong, but my husband said something to Jeremy about Kyle and being saved, and Jeremy, I mean, just whipped up the Bible passage and told Mike, and Mike said, can you please tell my wife that? Because I always tell Mike, if I die, you better find somebody to take care of my boys. So when he told Mike that, I was like, oh my God, thank you. Because I don't know what I would do. You know, if he had to stay here or was sent to hell, so to speak,
Yeah.
But there are, you know,
Yeah.
God's made loopholes, so to speak.
When we talked about this too, that God is just, right? Like if there is a perfect just God, like if you believe in God,
Right.
you should believe in a just God and a fair God, right? And one that, and if a just God and a fair God would have a way to be just and fair in these situations.
Well, and I think society has skewed our views on stuff like that. And that's where I have fallen short and have felt unworthy, because I have been exposed to the unworthiness that I have felt my entire life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But we don't have to be worthy because he is, right? And so that's what we're gonna stand on that.
Right.
And so that's a piece that we can hold on to. And that is such a, like I've said it for years, like I don't know, I've been very thankful that I've had faith in my life for a long time, because I don't know how I could have made it through so many situations without it, because it gives me so much peace.
I mean, I've seen you where you've just like, what more could happen, and then something else happens,
and it's just like I just am
like, what am I doing wrong here? Yeah,
I'm just tired, right? We all have that tiredness.
Yeah.
And I just don't know, you know, in some ways, like how people make it through without it, because it's exhausting with it some days. But you know, you have that, at least that ability to not have to be working and working to earn something, right? You just have this. And that you don't have to try to constantly be earning it. It's just there. And do I want to like present the best for God? Yes. Like is there a way I try to work on myself and try to show up for God? Yes. But it's not because I have to earn it. It's because I love him and I want to draw people into him. And so by being my best self.
Exactly.
Not because I feel like he's going to love me any less if I'm not doing these